Hi, everybody. Sharona here, and welcome to another live episode. That's right, live episode of Conversations That Matter Most. And of course, I'm here with my wonderful co pilot, co host, cohort, Claudette. I keep coming, going to come. I was going to get, because yes, Claudette.
Hi, Sharona. Claudette here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. You really make me feel great when you introduce me like that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I thank you all for being here today. Newcomers, long timers, and those in between or haven't decided yet. Um, and so we're going to today's episode on Conversations That Matter Most. We're going to be talking about keeping it simple. But before we go into that, I just want Claudette, why don't you share just a little bit about who you are and what kind of trouble you do?
Well, I do a lot of trouble. So again, my name is Claudette Chenevert, and I'm known as the stepmom coach. And the kind of trouble I get into is I actually help stepmoms build and create stronger and healthier step families. So just being a stepmom or being in a step family has their own level of issues, and yes, there's a lot of trouble in there. And so I help minimize chaos and complexities and try to create a new norm for this family so that these kids that are growing up in a step family can have a sense of what it's like to be loved, cared for by more than just one set of parents, but by many people all around them. So, what about you, Sharona? So, what kind of trouble do you get yourself into?
I get into, again, all kinds of trouble. And thus, what the topic that we're having today, keeping it simple. And I work with midlife women who might be having trouble finding what their next step is or what they want to do financially or in relationships or in career. And maybe they're just having a little trouble navigating through the transition and transformation of midlife. And so that way they're not just surviving midlife and beyond, but they're thriving wholeheartedly in body, mind, and spirit. And today, we were having our conversation, Claudette and I are the other day, and I realized why this topic came up was I'm working on creating, my launching my e-seminars, my mini e-seminars, what are you going to call them? Products, my stuff. And I'm creating a landing page and all that. And somehow, because of my brilliance, I ended up diverting into some crazy, wacky, offshore, off planet, off. I just diverged into some other universe where I was making it more and more and more complicated. And luckily, Claudette, who is one of my faithful sidekicks, besides being a awesome coach and leader on her own, even us coaches and specialists, and we need our faithful sidekicks. Doesn't right?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There's no way none of us can do whatever we do on our own. We always need someone to bounce ideas off and to bring us back to reality, right?
I think that bring us, in other words, for me, a free radical space cadet, I need someone to anchor my feet back on the ground. Anyway, because of that, we simplify the whole thing, and it just got me thinking about how easy we can take a simple task and complicate it more and more as we go forward instead of keeping the focus on what needs to be done beforehand. So that's why this conversation, and I'm just saying, I don't think I'm the only one who does this. I'm just saying there might be one or two other women out there, either stepmoms or midlife women, or
Even
that we do
ourselves,
that.
right?
We just somehow we make it more complicated. So that's what today's topic is about. What would you like to add to that, Miss Claudette?
And it's true, Sharon. I mean, it's not only you. I do it myself sometimes, right? And that's why we have conversations, you and I, and with other people. For some reason, there is this concept or this idea that if it's simple, it's not effective, right?
Right.
And now being simple does not mean being easy. There's a difference between simple and easy, right? But being simple, for some reason, there's this, maybe this preconceived notion that if it's too simple, it can't be that good. It has to be complicated in order to be effective. And I see this a lot in relationships. You know, if we just kept our relationships simple, maybe we wouldn't have to be struggling and being so upset all the time, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's the same whether it's for relationship or work, our own life decisions. We tend to make it complex in order to add value to it. And maybe that's not what's actually happening, but that's what I'm seeing, that we have a tendency to make things complex in order to make it valuable. And I'm not I'm not thinking that complex does not equal value. It actually it equals chaos, stress, and disengagement in whatever you're doing.
And it reminds me, and I'm going to say this wrong, but there's a theory out there called something, Acham Razor or something, that the simplest explanation is the answer. And yet we sometimes, I don't know if it's a math or science thing, and something, Razor, but I always I think of that, and yet somehow I forget that when I'm getting into stuff. And I liked what you said about somehow we have this hallucination that if it's complex, then it's adding value. And I think, going back to my journey, I think I was trying to make it seem like it was more than what it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I added all these other layers. You talked me off the edge. And so one of the things, if you look in our lives as midlife women, we have a lot going on as women anyway, and then we have to deal with our midlife transition and transformation, and we're trying to, sometimes we might find that we might not feel that we have value, so we create this chaos around it. Or maybe a relationship ended or shifted or changed in some way that it's not what it was, and somehow we're trying to find complex ways or more intricate ways of building or being in that relationship, when maybe it's just a simple conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Or the same thing at work. Maybe it's a simple conversation. Not saying that it's going to be an easy conversation, but it might be just starting the conversation like, this isn't working. What do we need for ourselves and for each other? Or what does this job need from me? And whatever. It's about finding that conversation.
And you're sharing, and as you're sharing this and talking about, those conversations, I'm brought back to conversations that stepmoms and their spouses may have in around children. And sometimes they're having these in-depth conversations about how they should be dealing with their kids, their stepkids, and having another person involved. And then there's spouse that's in there, and maybe there's like the kids are not getting along and everything. And sometimes, just asking the kids, what would you like, could be like, wow, they could have an answer to help you. And a lot of times, again, we're creating a lot of complexities around something that could, like simply asking, what would you like? Especially when we're talking about relationship. So, if you're a stepmom and you're having issues, let's say with your stepdaughter, and a lot of times you're going in your head and you're thinking, okay, this is like, this might be happening, and I have to get my husband involved. It's all the ex-wife's fault, or blah, blah, blah. How about if you, before getting to all these internal explanation, you sit down and have a conversation with your stepdaughter and say, okay, this is what I see going on. Can we have a conversation? Can we talk about it? Now, again, simple does not mean easy, right? And let's clarify that. Sometimes the simplest act of doing something is the hardest one to do. And I think sometimes we try to avoid doing hard things and create complex situations in order to avoid what's difficult to do.
Right. And I think one of the things is too, as you're talking, is that a lot of times why it feels hard is because we're afraid. We're afraid of what might happen. We're afraid based on previous kind of situations that were kind of the same. But it really is about, checking in with ourselves and saying, okay, what do I need for myself? What do I need to ask or put out? How do I, and letting go of what happens on the other side response. In other words, trying to control the conversation. So we make it harder by all this other fringe. I was going to say fabulous, but it's not. It's just this fringe, pretty stuff, years ago I took a course in nonviolent communication, and it felt so inorganic about how to have a conversation. And I understand the process, it took practice, how to have it. And I'm thinking, but this is not how people talk. And what happened is when I was trying to do that out in the real world, I was so focused on trying to find now I do step one and now right. And then when you read it or when you listen to it, it sounds very simple, but it really isn't easy because it's not how people talk. It's not how we are. And so it started getting me into this like control thing of how to control the conversation. Mm-hmm. Where what I finally realized is when you're having a conversation with somebody is, at least this is what I've learned, and it might not work for everybody, is you ask a question and then you shut up.
Yeah. You take the time to listen to the response, right?
Right.
How many times have you had someone ask you, how are you doing? And people are not actually waiting to hear the answer, right?
Right.
It's just like a catchphrase for everything. How are you doing? And then they're off telling all kinds of stuff.
I what I started doing is sometimes if I'm in the mood is it's like at cashiers. Like, so I'll say, how are you? And so one of them said, oh, no complaints. I said, well, if you had a complaint, what would you complain about? And what? So that totally started a whole phenomenal conversation. And I think what it was the willingness for me to ask that question and then let go of the outcome and listen. So one of the things is, and when you're with, keeping it simple with other people is just having the willingness to ask what is, I think the question you asked, what are you needing or what do you want right now? And then listen, and then really listen to what is being said, not scripting the answer in your head or thinking about what you have to go shopping for, but really paying attention. And I think the other thing too is keeping it simple for ourselves internally. It's about quieting down the monkey chatter that is going to get things more and more complex as the conversation in our head keeps going on.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the monkey chatter because part of I think what happens in that makes our life so complicated is that we listen to this little monkey in our heads trying to make us go crazy, right? Or looking for trouble.
Right.
Looking for trouble. And I'll give a short example. I am in the process of training for a half marathon. I'm walking it. I'm not running it. And so I'm walking and I'm walking and I'm going, and all of a sudden, and minding my own business, just walking, right? All of a sudden, I'm having this little monkey mind in the air saying, you think you really can do it, right? Like, you're going to have to walk a lot more than this. Like, I'm saying to my monkey mind, but I'm just starting. Like, give me a break, will you? Yeah, but you've never done this before. Who do you think you are? Like, do you seriously think you can do this? And it's like, well, I'm practicing. Like, I'm having a conversation back and forth with myself. Really? Like, I'm having an argument with my monkey mind.
Right.
Honestly?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And here's the thing with the monkey mind, or everyone has a different thing. Sometimes I call it the toxic voice. Sometimes I call it the inner village. Yeah, the inner critic, whatever you want to call it. I like monkey mind because I think of a barrel full of monkeys just chattering. The thing is that we do that we do that more often than not, and it's learning how to quiet that down in the moment, and not like glom onto it and let it take us to where I ended up being in the outer reaches of space trying just to create a landing page. So recently, and I do meditation and I try this, but recently I just saw this awesome little 5-minute and I think I shared it with those on Facebook. It was this 5-minute understanding of meditation in the simplest way to do it. And what I liked about it, it made it okay to get off track and then come back. Matter of fact, the narrator said that's part of the process of meditation, is because over the years I kept hearing about meditation as quieting the mind and bringing yourself back to focus, but it made it sound like that once you start this, your mind wouldn't just travel off into wherever it's going to go.
And actually, it gets more stressful, right?
Right.
The more you try to quiet your mind, the more stressed you come.
Exactly.
I can't do this. Like, I'm really not good at this.
Right. And it was like, in this little video, it was, okay, so basically failure is part of the system. And the more you fail at meditating, the better you are actually going to quiet the mind. And I thought, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you. So basically what it is the system is you just focus on your breath, and then the mind is going to go freakadeaky and then wander. Ah! And then you go, oh, and you notice that you're going off, and then you go, oh, let me come back. And what happens in a scientific and biological thing is it's breaking the cycle of the monkey chatter.
Mm-hmm.
And all you need is 5 minutes a day, 5-10 minutes a day. And I'm thinking, oh, thank you for making this simple. Again, not easy, because the mind is going to immediately say, I'm just going to focus on the breath. And the mind is going, oh, yeah, how about this? And what about that? And oh, look what happened 3 years ago. And oh, you forgot to do that. And
and that's the same with being a stepmom, right?
right.
Here you are, you want to engage with your stepkids, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to make them a nice meal, something that's going to be nice. And then your monkey mind says, well, why bother? They're not even your kids if you're doing something for them. Or you're thinking like, yeah, if I do something nice for them, their mom's going to come and complain to me. And then, or my husband's going to say, well, why are you not taking care of the kids? So your monkey mind is actually creating these scenes and scenarios. And I'm not saying that's not happening. I'm just saying that your monkey mind tends to reinforce it in a way that you're tending to back away, either by disengaging and doing absolutely nothing, or creating this humongous strategy that gets out of proportion, that you're unable to actually do something about it.
And so, yeah, and so as so one of the things is I was going to ask our viewers is, where in your life does it feel like it's out of control and overcomplicated? Where in your life do you find that not only is the monkey chatter insane, but everything else is mashugana? And so you need to, so look at that, and what is making it complex? What is making it unmanageable? What's making it, what part are you what is it that's making it seem so undoable?
Mm-hmm.
And find, and then find a quiet time, meditate 5 minutes, quiet everything down, and find what would be the simplest way to make this work for me and everybody around me.
Yeah. And if you're having a hard time asking yourself or finding that, question or that answer to that question, Sharona and I would be happy to talk with you about it, in, bringing it to the smallest, simplest thing that you can do, right? To, look at what is actually essential, because sometimes we want this big, grandiose solution, because I think it helps us to make us feel better if it's big and complex. When in reality, if you keep it simple, it'll make your life so much better. A lot less stress. You'll feel like you have a handle over the situations. So if that's something that you're feeling, you having a hard time to find qualified or people that will help you to think in simple form, Sharona and I will be happy to help you in that area, in getting you to create more simplicity in your life rather than complexity.
Right. Yeah. And I think too is, again, just to remind everyone, is that we're not meant to do life alone. Sometimes we need to have our faithful sidekick to help us with whatever we need help with. And it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
And it's okay to ask, saying, I can't do this right now. Recently I've been dealing with a elderly family member who has been going through stuff, and I realized that I was getting it was getting more and more complicated until I realized in talking with other family members that we needed to find what we were good at, and we focused on one thing, not everything, but on one thing. So again, I call it chunking it down. So, like for instance, Claudette, you're training for this half marathon, and so every time you're not doing that whole half marathon right now. You're building up, you're taking the steps to get into condition to do the half marathon. And that's the same thing in life. We sometimes think we got to take it all on, make it more complicated, and sometimes we need to check it down. So what can I do today? What are the 5 things I can do, or the one step I can take today to make this thing happen? What's the one action step I can, because everything is, and then I think it's about finding that balance in our life so that we're not focused on just one thing, but we can focus on many things, but in their time frame.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I love how you said, chunking it down and, picking 1 or 2 things to do rather than the whole thing. And that's the same with problems, right? If you're dealing with a problem or you're having like a crisis at home, don't look at the entire project or the entire situation. Look at one thing and focus on how you can manage that one thing in your relationship at home, in your life, so that you can at least feel good. This piece of conversation reminds me of the wheel of life. A lot of coaches use it, and there's between 7 and 9 pieces of pie in your wheel of life. And so if you look at each of those pieces, there's places in your life where they're super great, and there are pieces of your life where they're not so great. So, you can't, and there'll be more than one piece that's not great. So it may go like all zigzaggy, or it could go like lopsided, whatever way you do your life's wheel. And the thing is that you don't focus on all the pieces that are not working. You would focus on one of those pieces that are not working, but appreciate what is actually working. Because if you focus only on what's not working and forget about the successes you have and where you thrive and where you're growing, it's going to be so hard. So again, keep it simple. Bring it down to, 1 or 2 things that you can actually do. And that, it doesn't need to be transforming the world today, just a little bit towards where you want to end up being.
And, with that in mind, it's like when I'm working with midlife women who might be going through not midlife transition, but maybe a career transition. Sometimes what happens is they get so tunnel focused on just trying to find a new career that everything else in their life gets a little pushed over the edge, and then it gets more complicated. So again, if you look at your day, what is one thing I can do to help make a career transition? What is one thing I can do today to do extreme self-care? What is one thing I can do today that will support my relationships? So you are taking many little steps, and it might be in many different areas, but you don't have to do all those steps on the same time. It's about, I think, about energy management. It's about finding the balance in your life. And remember, life can be kind of stressful. So find something fun to do. Just
Yeah.
find something. Yes, life is serious, it's significant, but there's got to be a moment in there where you get to uh, just hang out, and let it all hang out and just do something silly and fun. And again, if you're having a hard time finding that balance, that uh, less stress, so that you can thrive in your life instead of just survive, you know, find either Claudette or myself, or find the support you need, because the monkey mind is not going to tell you the truth.
Now it likes to keep you in chaos.
Yes.
So think
Yeah.
of it that way.
Yeah.
So,
So,
and wrap up,
yes.
Sharona, how can people get a hold of you? How can midlife women get a hold of you who are looking to simplify their lives and maybe help quiet that monkey mind?
So thanks, Clyde. And it's so funny because both we're about to say the same thing at the same time. Woohoo! Focus. Um, live long and prosper and nanu nanu. Um, So for if you're a midlife woman and you're finding that your life feels very chaotic, or you're feeling overwhelmed or lost and not sure what's next, or you might be feeling that your life is way too complicated, you can find me at Sharona at midlifewomendancingwithchange.com. That's my email. My website, www.midlifewomendancingwithchange. You can also find me hashtag on social media, Midlife Women Dancing with Change. Also, hashtag emotional impact, because a lot of times uh, we don't give the space to deal with the emotional components of dealing with change and transition and transformation. And yeah, so those are ways you can get a hold of me. And Claudette, if they're a stepmom and they're going, ah, and the monkey mind is not quieting down, how can they get in touch with you?
Thank you, Sharona. So, if you're a stepmom looking to build and create stronger and healthier step families and deal with, find ways of simplifying your step family life, you can find me at my website, which is stepmomcoach.com. Email me at Claudette at stepmomcoach.com. And I've just started launching a few programs, online training programs for stepmoms. So, I have Emotional Smarts that's there, which is a great one to help deal with a lot of your emotions you're dealing with. I also have Becoming a More Confident Stepmom, which is to deal a lot with what we just talked about, dealing with some of that monkey mind and, simplifying your life. And you can find me on social media using hashtag stepmom coach, or you can also use hashtag stepmom wisdom. And there's a lot of information available for you. Just look at it, and I'd be happy to talk with you and support you in your journey of being a stepmom.
Thanks, Claudette. And also for those, if you found this useful, please share it with those in your life, or be it work, professional, personal. And also comment below. You might have found a simple way to simplify your life. Share below, because that's how we build community. We're all in this together. And just to let you know, I will be launching a free e-mini course. Should be coming out in a couple weeks. Uh, Getting my landing page, called "Thriving in the Midst of Midlife Change." So look for that. And just remember, listen. You can always listen to these again. We have a whole library of episodes. So when you listen, maybe take a pencil, paper, or if you can type fast, because there's a lot of information in here. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. We appreciate your support. Claudette, always great to be here with you because my goodness, we have been doing this a while and it just always feels like the first time, which is awesome. So
Yeah.
thank you, Claudette.
You're welcome, Sharona. One of the benefits of doing this together for you and I is that I always learn something new and having these conversations with you. And so that's why we encourage everyone to encourage you to really re-listen a few times. And because each time you listen to these audios, you're in a different frame of mind, and you're more apt to hear things that you may not have heard of in the first time. So again, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you. Like Sharona said, make sure to like us, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends.
Okay, everybody. Well, have a nice rest of the day. Groove on, have fun, and thrive. See you next time.
Bye.